Chairman, you're free to proceed.
Very good. Let the future minutes show that the meeting was called to order at 11:03 a.m. Please note, as permitted by gubernatorial authority, in order to limit the risk of potential COVID-19 exposure, the public shall be denied entry to the Parks and Shade Commission meeting. The public is encouraged to participate in the Parks and Shade Commission meeting electronically, and the instructions have been published. I'd like to also check with Ms. Womack, the city secretary. Have all notices been published and individuals notified as in accordance with law?
Yes, they have.
Thank you very much. Roll call. Do we have Commissioner Marcia Maldiz with us?
Yes.
Commissioner Ned Kesmodel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rachel Macha?
Yes.
And I believe we also have with us City Solicitor Glenn Mendelis.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
And City Arborist Liz Lingo.
Present.
All right. Thank you. And of course, Ann Womack, our recording city secretary and assistant. And thank you, Ann, for all your help. The next is the any correspondence, Ms. Womack?
I have not received any.
Thank you very much. Do we have has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, I'd like to entertain a motion from somebody on accepting the minutes.
Move to approve.
Pardon me?
Marcia, we didn't hear you.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
I'm sorry? Okay, is there any discussion?
No.
Seeing none, the minutes approved unanimously. Let's move on to new business. Is Mr. Ashby present?
Yes.
Okay. Before we get on to the case, are you expecting the Hutchison to present, or is it just you?
No, I am.
Okay, very good. So the first matter before us in terms of hearings, the purpose of this meeting is to conduct an administrative appeal hearing pursuant to the Comprehensive Tree Ordinance, Chapter 253 of the Municipal Code of the City of Rehoboth Beach. This is first hearing, appeal hearing number 0720-01, requested by James Ashby of Cypress Tree Care on behalf of James and Karen Hutchison, owners of the property located at 127 Rodney Street, pursuant to Section 253-36 of the Municipal Code of the City of Rehoboth Beach, and pertains to a determination of an appeal of a denial of a tree removal permit to remove 2 trees from private property, and a request to remove 1 tree located between the sidewalk and curb and any planting requirements. Mr. Ashby, please go ahead and present your case.
About 4 or 5 months ago, I was approached by the Hutchisons to look at an issue that they had with 3 Zelkova trees, 1 on city right of way, 2 on their private property, because they were having sewer problems. After doing a little more research, they had McGee Plumbing out, they had cleaned out the pipes, and subsequently in the last couple months, they've had it cleaned out 2 more times from root growth intruding into the sewer lateral that goes to the street. In addition to that, they've had the electric line that runs to their garage severed by root growth. So they have no electric in their garage as well. I applied for those trees to be removed and was denied, and they decided that they would like to go to an appeal hearing. And the packet that was given to the city contains all of pertinent and timeline and information that goes along with this.
Thank you. Is there anything else to add at this point in our discussion, sir?
Just from an arborist standpoint, those trees are raising the sidewalk. Those trees are into the utility lines. They have sort of outgrown their space. Would be a complete maintenance headache moving forward. And my clients were not opposed to any mitigation plantings if needed, but I do believe they have enough trees on their lot, didn't require it on the private side.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
if that's all for now, it doesn't mean we're not going to come back to you or you can't offer additional comments in a little while. Let's hear from the city arborist regarding the matter, okay? Liz?
Sure. Is everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The following is the report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced request is to be heard before the commission on August 24, 2020. The applicant has both an appeal to remove 2 trees on private property and a request to remove 1 city tree located in the right-of-way between the sidewalk and the curb. The 2 trees located on private property are Japanese Zelkovas, approximately 12 to 14 inches in diameter, at the front of the home along Rodney Street. Both trees are healthy and are of a desirable species within the city. The original cast iron lines have begun to fail and corrode, and surrounding vegetation is able to take advantage of every crack and leak. In similar cases, it is recommended that the sewer lines are replaced. The removal of these 2 trees will not resolve that issue. There are much larger neighboring trees and shrubs that likely have infiltrated the lines as well, as tree roots can grow up to 2 to 3 times beyond the canopy. With the lines replaced or appropriately repaired or sleeved, tree root damage will be unlikely. However, as most homeowners can attest, regularly scoping and derooting your lines is part of general maintenance when owning a home near trees. In fact, one of our Public Works Department's tasks is to perform this continual maintenance on all of our own lines. If the applicant were permitted to remove these 2 trees, the property would be left with 2 invasive calorie pears. In order to issue the permit, an approved planting plan would be required for 1 new native species meeting code minimum sizes. In addition, the applicant has requested to remove 1 12-inch Zelkova street tree located between the sidewalk and curb along Rodney Street. The tree was pruned within the last 2.5 years by a certified arborist. The city does not remove such healthy, desirable trees for utility or sidewalk conflicts if the conflicts can be resolved less invasively. In this case, any non-ADA compliant cracks or lifts can be ground and the lines can be repaired or replaced. As per city code, Parks and Shade Tree Commission has authority to allow removal of the street tree. 253.12 maintenance. C. No person shall plant, spray, preserve, prune, remove, cut above ground, or otherwise disturb any tree on any street or municipal owned property without first receiving permission from the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Any tree removed from municipal owned property must be replaced unless otherwise authorized by the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Also, the commission has the sole authority to hear and decide the appeal related to the trees located on private property. 253.36 Administrative Appeals. C. Authority of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Parks and Shade Tree Commission shall have the authority to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged that there is error in any decision made by the building inspector on an application for a tree removal permit or land clearing permit. In exercising its authority, the Park and Shade Tree Commission may reverse or affirm, wholly or in part, or may modify the building inspector's decision. Additionally, the Park and Shade Tree Commission has authority to order a fee in lieu of mitigation. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, before we proceed with any questions or discussion, let's ask Ms. Womack if anyone from the public has notified her that they'd like to speak to this matter.
There is no one.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioners, the floor is ours. Do you have any questions or comments for discussion or motions? Please. I can't see your hands. Just say who it is and go ahead and speak.
Eric.
Yes.
Hi, it's Rachel. I'd like to speak if it's okay.
Certainly.
Okay, so just to make this a public and certainly disclose the fact that I do live on Rodney Street. So Karen and Jim live down the street from me. Karen stopped me July 4th weekend to ask me about the process as it relates to the situation that we're talking about here today. And I did actually go to Sharon Lynn to confirm that, in fact, the Hutchinsons did have to come through the Park Shade and Tree Commission here for this case. But in no way did I give Karen any opinion or, look at any of the information here that you are being shared with today to consider this case. So I just felt like I should bring that forward.
Thank you.
So with that said, and living on Rodney Street, I have certainly gone by the property, and I go by there quite a few times a day walking my dogs. There is a significant issue there as it relates to the root systems. I had no idea that there was such a big issue as it relates to the electrical and the sewage pipes. But as it relates to, a pedestrian walking their dogs around the sidewalk with the city tree that has root systems that is kind of messing up the sidewalk, it's pushing it up. And then you've got the root systems that you can actually see surfaced in the yard. I mean, I do think this seems like a really big problem, and it's super close to their house. But to hear that they're having the electrical issues that they're having and the sewer issues that they're having, I mean, I think we obviously should consider granting removal of these trees.
Is that a motion, or would you like to put it in the form of one? And is there any consideration of mediation or fee in lieu? What are you thinking, all?
I was going to just see if there was any other comments from the commission, but I thought I just should speak up myself since I walk by this house quite a few times a day.
Well, I always have an opinion. So I think that three of those trees right together is way too much. I do think the street tree should go because of the sidewalk. Liz and I usually disagree about what are healthy trees and what aren't, but these are healthy trees, so I agree with Liz. The thing with cast iron pipes, they're old. We've dealt with this in Florida where we've had to change them because their life expectancy is definitely well past what it should be. So that the tree shouldn't come down because of that. We need to replace the sewer lines. And God knows the house is close enough to the street, so it shouldn't be that big an expense. But I would be in favor of taking down one of the three, and mine would be the one between the sidewalk and the street. That's just my opinion.
I'll speak up.
Marcia,
I
anything?
agree with Ned. We just replaced our sewer pipe. It's not terribly expensive, not cheap either, because all the roots have gotten into the old sewer lines. And I would agree for at least one of those trees to come down. They are too close together. Although, excuse me, we have that on our property. Big trees. So, at least the street tree.
So this is Eric, and I'd like to weigh in if that's okay with the group. I took another look at the property over the weekend, and the street tree, I agree with Ms. Lingo, is a beautiful street tree for shade, and it is uplifting the sidewalk. But the city does work to remediate that, to get the sidewalk back down and trim the trunks. They do things, obviously in the public domain, to make that safer, to use that sidewalk. So, and I think that tree particularly is probably the least invasive, although you can't always tell by distance from the house. I'm making a big assumption there, I realize, but it is the furthest tree from the house. Clearly having a cluster of those three of the same species so close together is troublesome. They're big, beautiful trees, and I would say they're in the wrong place. The density is way too high right there. And I would wonder if the commission would consider granting the request to remove the two in the front yard, but maintaining the one along the street, because the shade factor is very similar. They're just fighting with each other. Their branches are just getting into each other, and I can only imagine what's going on with the roots. And so that's my thought. Any comments? To keep the one on the street and allow the two in the front yard on the private property to be removed.
Well, I actually, that's not a bad idea, but I think they should plant one kind of substantial tree on that road near Bayard, where they have more space, a tree that will grow and be relatively big in the next 100 years.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
So I think, so you're talking about, so basically the mitigation would be to work with the arborist to find a, you're talking about a moderately or a canopy tree? Because I know, and I respect that you're going to go like as specific as possible. I get that.
Is that a question?
Yes, Commissioner Kesmodel. So what type of tree were you suggesting mitigation?
Well, like an oak, like an oak tree, one that will be a full-grown tree sometime down the road. There's enough space in that side yard where it can handle a bigger tree.
So a canopy tree.
Yeah, definitely a canopy tree.
Okay, I just looking for clarification. Thank you.
And so Ned and Eric, are you considering that tree to be in their yard or in the city strip?
Oh, in their yard. That yard between Bayard and their house is the biggest space I saw on that piece of property. So
I'm asking because the other tree would obviously be in the city space. I wasn't sure if you were thinking it should still be in the city space.
no.
Just confirming. Yep.
Yeah. I would make a motion that we do that. Let them take the two trees down closest to the house, keep the city tree, plant a canopy tree of some size in that side yard facing Bayard.
Is there a second?
Can I ask a question before we go there? Sorry.
I think you gotta take a second.
We can always have a discussion. So.
All right, I'll second it.
Okay, yeah, he just made the motion. So, okay, now for discussion.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to Larry and ask him. I mean, obviously, he's done quite a bit of assessment here around those three trees and the roots and the problems with the roots. So in his, professional opinion, does that city tree cause kind of the primary issue that he's seeing with the electrical and the cast iron sewer pipes, or would he agree that the two trees near the house are more primarily the problem?
Is that for me?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Yes, Mr. Ashby.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Primarily, I mean, you've got two issues. The two trees on the private property are there. My concern with the street tree is with the sewer lateral replacement, how much damage are you going to do to the root structure of the tree that's in the city right away? Are we going to try to save it, do enough damage that over time it declines and it becomes dead? And in looking at that, that's why I think my clients were open to taking all three of them out and then mitigating as needed. That is up to your choice. But I would say that with where that sewer lateral runs from that house to the street, that street tree is awful close to where they would be digging up to replace the lateral. Just my opinion.
Right. Again, this is Eric Wargotz. If I may comment, I think Ms. Lingo addressed in her own opinion those concerns that it can be done and it should be done, and of course that would, because it is city, I believe it would be done at, I expect, city expense. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, since it is on city property. So it seems we're at a difference of opinion between two arborists.
Wait,
which is fine.
Eric, can I interrupt you for a second, Chairman?
Certainly.
What would you think would be at the city's expense?
Well, I'm trying to understand if the sewer line coming out of the road to the home is being damaged by a tree on city property.
Okay, well, I'll stop you right there because that's not the case. If you read the supporting documentation, when I spoke to McGee, and as I think Ned pointed out, with those cast iron pipes, they're literally crumbling. So the city does not repair people's mains to their house. The city is responsible, or the city is responsible for the main. The property owner is responsible for the lateral. And I think Marcia just said that exact thing, that they replaced theirs, and it's certainly not cheap, I will say.
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying that for me, because I did read all the paperwork, and I guess that just didn't hit me the way it should have.
There was you had a lot of stuff to look through.
No, I make no excuses, but anyway, we'll move on. So we have a motion. We've heard about that third tree, how it, it certainly, the pipe, it sounds like everyone agrees that the main, the lateral from the main to the house sounds like it needs work 100%, regardless of whether that tree stays there or not. So it sounds like the homeowner would be responsible for that, whether that tree stays or not. So it's not a matter of who pays for this lateral replacement. I think everyone has agreed that the lateral, it sounds like from what we understand this morning, that the lateral needs to be replaced. It's in dire need of replacement. So then that just leaves us with, do we leave the tree there if it can be saved, or obviously it's removed if it can't be saved? And that's not, we don't have to make that decision if when they go in to have the main replaced, that tree is in its way, can't be saved at that point, then we'll hear about it again. So
and
how would we
Eric, sorry. And whose responsibility is it if the tree is somehow damaged, if we have to end up removing it or caring for it in some way? Is that the city responsibility since it's a city tree?
Liz, I believe so, correct?
Is it a city tree?
In the public area.
Well, if you guys look at the email I had originally sent, which Mr. Ashby included in his documentation,
from the June, yeah.
I think there's a good chance that the homeowners planted that tree, because if you look, they have the two Zelkovas right on the front of their property, and then they have two on the street around their property, and there's really no other Zelkovas in that area, and they're all about the same size and approximate age, I would guess. So
I see.
This is a problem we deal with when people replace sidewalks and curbs and potentially damage city trees, or people build houses and damage right-of-way trees. And a lot of times the damage, the death or decline takes years to show up. And yes, then the city is left with the tab, basically.
So in this case, if they're not the homeowner that planted the tree, because it sounds like those trees were there far before this family bought this house, they're still responsible for the trees on the property and the city strip or easement, whatever you want to call that, because they assumed that those trees when they bought the property. Is that the way we look at it?
Honestly, that's not how I've been doing it. I don't think that is really fair or equitable. Like I said in my report, we prune those trees in the last couple of years. So I'd say at that point, we assumed ownership of them. If we can't attribute who planted them, I would guess that it was that home, but we don't have any documentation, quite honestly. So in lieu of somebody else taking care of them, the city has to assume that responsibility. We can't just let them be uncared for.
All right. So at this point, I wonder if the commission would mind if we go ahead and leave the motion the way it is, and then let's take up further discussion on this one tree in the city, land, because that's more complex. If that would appeal to everybody, it doesn't mean the matter of the city tree is over. We're just dealing with the private we're dividing it, the issue. We're dealing with the private property trees first, according to the motion that has been seconded.
But if they
Is that
took
okay?
that
We're
tree
gonna-
down, if they took this tree down, they really don't have nearly the number of trees on that property that they should have. So, you know, the mitigation would totally change. Because the only two trees supposedly are invasive, very invasive trees that shouldn't even be there anyway. And do we know where the sewer line actually is? Why we're even discussing this? Is it even near that tree?
If you look at the property, where the sewer clean out is, you can see. And it would be, I think, a reasonable assumption to say it goes straight out to the road from there. But unless it's marked, we really don't know for sure.
Right. I mean, I think that should be answered where that is, because it could go out to Surf Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
And I did
excuse
make
me.
that point in my email that prior to them coming to this, it might have been wise to have Miss Utility called and had that marked. But
Why don't we put this on hold until they get that done, so we actually know what we're doing?
That sewer clean out is in between the two Zelkovas that are on the private property. So regardless of whether it comes out, runs under the sidewalk to Bayard or runs out to Rodney, you still have an issue with where that sewer clean out is in between the two private property trees. Now, yes, it may not cross underneath the city right-of-way tree, but those two trees on private property are on either side of that clean out.
And that's why I thought perhaps, since you made the motion, Commissioner Kesmadel, that maybe we could take a vote on for the two on the private property with the mitigation that's been proposed, and then we can decide whether to table, defer, or have additional discussion and a motion on the one on the city property.
I don't know, but I'll see what everybody else thinks. I just think we should do the whole thing together as one package, because people are going to have a heart attack if they see these three trees go down.
I don't think we're talking about three trees going down. I think we're just talking
Well,
about,
but if their sewer is in the wrong place and they have to take that street tree down too because of this replacing the sewer line, then that means all three of them are down, will be down.
yeah,
we
but
don't know.
one is actually a city tree, right? So the homeowner is responsible for the two on the private.
True, but that would be basically clearing the whole lot of any tree or any canopy near there, even though it's on the city property. It's basically right in their front yard.
Right,
But I'll go
couldn't-
along with, I'll listen to whatever people want to do and I'll, decide. But I just think,
I'm going to call the question on the motion, and unless, of course, Ned, Commissioner Cosmo, you and Rachel decide to withdraw the motion before I call it. But
well, I can just vote against
I'd
it.
like. Okay. Well, I'm going to call the motion. The motion is, the seconded motion is to allow the removal of two trees on private property and have a canopy tree selected in conjunction with advice from the city arborist to be planted in a suitable location, which our view is on the Bayard side of the street, or I mean the end of that end next to the house. So Rachel, Commissioner Macha?
Yes,
Yes, I'm calling for a vote.
oh, I'm going first, yes.
Commissioner Kesmodel,
No,
Commissioner Maldiz,
Yes,
and I vote for yes. So the two on the private will come down. And I would like to, because we have divided this, I would like to continue now with the discussion on the public land to see what the tree on the public city property, so we can see if we can find resolution or if we need more information and need to defer a decision on that particular tree. If there is a motion to defer decision based on needing more information, you can certainly enter that if you wish.
I think we should defer on the, I'll make a motion to defer the city tree until we either have more information or we do the work and find that there's some issue, right, associated with that tree. And then we come back and revisit this.
But what, to be more specific, what are you looking for? What's going to affect a decision? What information do you feel is important to learn before making a decision?
Well, Liz mentioned, obviously, they didn't have a chance, I guess, to call missed utilities. So I do think we need to get that marked. It sounds like the Larry, the arborist, is pretty confident of where that sewer line comes out. But I think there's still a question in all of our minds on how that tree could potentially be impacted by that work that has to be done.
Very good.
Well, and I think it would be fine to have all three of those trees come down.
Sorry?
I think it would be a crime to have all three of those trees removed.
Let's try to save the one at the street if we can. I'm with you.
Okay, so
I would second your motion to defer.
So did you second that, Commissioner?
Yes,
Cosmo?
I'll second it.
Okay. So, Ms. Womack, the motion, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion reads essentially that we're going to, our commission is deferring a decision on the tree on the city property until we have all lines are properly identified as to where they run from the house to the main and the electrical. So it's really the sewer pipe, the water pipe, and the electrical, and any underground cable or other utilities. All utilities, we want to understand how they run from the house to the lines in the street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, can I make a suggestion before you guys vote on this?
Sure.
So instead of making Mr. Ashby and or the homeowners come back and deferring this, why don't you guys set a restriction if the sewer replacement requires that excavation and the excavation comes in within the limits of excavation come within, say, or the line is within 4 feet of the tree or 3 feet of the tree, you just preemptively approve its removal and any subsequent replacement, rather than us having to get it marked, go out, look at it, then they have to wait a few weeks to come back here again.
But that's fine with me, Liz. What I'm still unclear on is if the tree is removed, is that the homeowner's responsibility? Is it the city's responsibility?
Yes, homeowners.
And if the replacement is required, is that the city's responsibility since it's a city tree?
It would be, since the homeowner is removing it, it would be up to the Park and Shade Tree Commission to require a replacement if you so wished.
I think it should come back then, because there's other questions we need to do. That's fine. I think we could, rather than have them come back, we could merely, if Rachel and if Commissioner Macha and Cosmodel wish to change their motion to have it tabled for more information, then it's just ongoing and the hearing can continue without additional fee or charge or whatever. And we just, once we get the information, we could even make a decision if Mr. Ashby or the homeowners don't wish to show up. We merely need that information, and then we can make a decision and hold we can continue the hearing on this matter. Glenn, maybe you could help me here. What language for this commission would be best? If we change it from defer, would it be to continue the hearing till we get further information? Would that be best?
Well, so you can do it a couple of different ways. The reason I typically don't go with a tabling is because then it requires a motion to bring it off the table. And some would argue that requires 2 meetings, 1 meeting to untable, 1 meeting. So I typically would continue or defer, meaning that you're going to take it back up and take a motion to take it off the table. It will be back on an agenda. So I think I would use the word defer. One question, I guess, on my mind is, to the extent you defer as to the public tree. The two private trees, Liz would be able to issue a permit as to those at least while you're waiting for this other information. I mean, probably from a cost perspective, they're going to want to do all the work at one time. So I doubt it'll make any real difference. But just to be clear, that motion was already approved, so she could issue the permit on the private trees, right?
Yeah, that's their decision, the homeowner timing decision. That's their decision.
Okay.
If they want to wait or not, frankly. So we made our decision. We did our job. They can decide on the timing whether they wish to wait. I understand that. So right now we have thank you, Glenn. So now we have the motion to defer, and Ms. Womack, hopefully as part of the discussion you include the cautionary statements, the advice of Liz Lingo in there for the discussion of this motion to defer. And is there any further discussion? Let's call the vote. We'll start. Commissioner Maldiz?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Kesmadel?
Yes.
Commissioner Macha?
Yes.
And it's aye on my part as well, so it's unanimous. So we will wait to get that information, and as soon as we have it, we'll take it up again, along with any mitigation discussion. Thank you. We ready to move on to the next case, Ms. Womack and Commissioner?
Yes.
Got everything? Okay. So the next case has been requested by Angela Murray and Theresa Crivelli, owners of the property located at 405 Stockley Street Extended, pursuant to Section 253-12C of the Municipal Code of the City of Rehoboth Beach, and pertains to the removal of 4 trees and undergrowth located in the city right-of-way along School Lane. So do we, Ms. Murray and Ms. Crivelli, are you with us, and would you like to speak?
Yes, we're here. Thank you.
Please go ahead and identify yourself so we know who's speaking first.
Sure. I'm Angela Murray.
I'm Theresa Crivelli. Hello again.
We saw you last month.
Hi.
How are you again?
Yes.
So
We are all well.
we appreciate your approval last month, and we've been working with Liz on the landscaping design plan for the right of way. Last month we did talk about a couple of trees that you also approved that we brought up at the end of the conversation. And our understanding was you also approved those trees, but we, by mistake, did not include them in the application, in our original application. So Liz had recommended that we, to make sure we're all compliant, that we submit another application just to make sure that we have approval for those trees that you approved last month. And they were the cherry, a holly, a flowering cherry, a stump, and a sumac, which, as we talked about, are all within the electrical lines or have the wisteria choking the electrical lines, or a safety issue. So this is, from our perspective, with Liz's guidance, which we appreciate, even though we noted in the minutes that they were approved, that we make sure that we have all the necessary documentation so we can be, cross our T's and check our I's, I guess is the right way to say it. Dot your I's.
Thank you. Any additional
Dot your I's.
comments?
As we told Liz, we're just trying to make sure we do everything correct.
We appreciate that. Any other comments regarding your appeal at this time?
Not unless there's any questions, or if there's a discussion, we'd be happy to share something. We did send in photos just to make sure, because most people have already been to the lot.
Thank you.
It's really not
Thank
any.
you, ladies.
These trees were just inadvertently left off of the last application. It's just the other side of the right of way.
Understood. Let's hear from the city arborist, shall we?
Sure. The following is a report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced request that is to be heard before the commission on August 24, 2020. The applicant has submitted a request to remove street trees located on city right-of-way along School Lane. On the attached site plan, all trees removed and proposed for removal are highlighted in pink. Trees to remain, are highlighted in yellow. The newly highlighted trees proposed for removal are 2 cherries, 1 sumac, and 1 spar/stump. Additionally, the applicant's request to remove ground cover and vines in that area. As per city code, Parks and Shade Tree Commission has authority to permit the removal of these trees. 253.12 maintenance. C, no person shall plant, spray, preserve, prune, remove, cut above ground, or otherwise disturb any tree on any street or municipal owned property without first receiving permission from the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Any tree removed from municipal owned property must be replaced unless otherwise authorized by the Parks and Shade Tree Commission.
Thank you. Commissioners, before we move on to questions, discussions, let's check with Ms. Womack to see if anyone has signed up from the public to offer public comments at the hearing.
There's no one.
Thank you very much. Fellow commissioners, we're now open to questions, discussion of either the appellant or the city arborist among ourselves, whatever, what have you. Please proceed.
Well, I was surprised to see them come back up because I thought we were finished with these 2 women. And I was over there the other day.
We felt that. We apologize that we missed them on the application.
I went back to look at what you were talking about. And I imagine the one with the orange fencing around it are all the trees you were going to save.
The only out of the, right, so the wild cherry, as we talked about, it has the sever through the center of it with the code. I'm sorry, with the electrical wiring. That's the flowering cherry. And then obviously the sumac has got the same issue. It's growing right in between.
Right, I was just worried that the ones that you have surrounded with that orange netting, I was assuming are the ones you're going to save.
Oh,
Yes.
hang on.
That's plenty.
That's a correct statement, except for, I want to be totally honest, is the tree, the holly does have the orange fence around it, but it has the wisteria that has grown in between the electrical wires and the top of the tree stump, the top of the tree itself.
Right.
So in order to get the wisteria off, because it's cut at the bottom, so it's just hanging there, they would have to chop the top of the tree off.
Okay, I think I saw that vine. It was like huge.
Right. So that's the only one, just to be, transparent, that is currently in the orange fence, but under further review, we wouldn't be able to save it really. But everything else in the orange fence, yes, is being saved.
Well, we took a tour of the first floor of your house, even though it said no trespassing. It's very nice.
Thank you. We appreciate that. It's been a very long, we've been working on this for 2 years. You have to save a lot of pennies.
Okay, well, I'm for taking it all down, so.
Thank you very much.
Is that a motion or?
Yeah, that could be a motion. That anything that they would like to take down that's approved or it's on their plan, that they be allowed to take down. It's underneath the electrical wires. It's an overgrown mess.
Is there a second? And any further discussion? Very good. Let's take the vote. Commissioner Maldiz?
Aye.
Commissioner Kesmadel?
Yes.
Commissioner Macha?
Yes.
And my vote is aye as well, so it's unanimous. Very good, ladies. You can move forward, continue to move forward. The other business we have is the city arborist report. Ms. Lingo, please proceed.
Sure. There's not really much to report. I think we're still dealing with some of the repercussions of the storm we had a few weeks ago. So anticipate an increase in probably just tree activity in general, pruning and removals. But not many whole trees were lost given the severity of the winds in surrounding communities. We fared pretty well overall.
I have a question for Liz.
Mhm.
Liz, there in the past, there are 2 houses that we have denied them taking down the trees, and mysteriously they have been taken down. So I was wondering if I sent you those address, you can see if they ever put in another application or somehow that got approval to take them down?
Yeah, sure. People ask that question all the time, making sure their neighbors or whatever got permits. So you can email me or submit it through the city's website, whichever is easier.
Okay.
And that's really all I have.
Okay, I have one item which is obviously relevant to this commission, but isn't directly regarding trees, and I hope the commission will indulge me to allow me to make this statement on behalf of all of us. And that is, we want to welcome, we're pleased that and congratulate Mayor-elect who's with us today. We're very pleased to have Mr. Mills, Mayor-elect, join us today. We want to congratulate the two commissioners who have been elected, and we want to thank the outgoing commissioners and Mayor Koch for his good work with this committee, and we certainly look forward to working with the new members and the mayor-elect. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Is there a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Very good. Thank you very much.
Bye,
Actually, it's Mayor Coons. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. K-U-H-N, Coons, not Koch. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.